but it got me thinking, the rust in that carburetor, there's got to be rust inside of this tank. And it is filthy. So I need to take this tank out, and I have no idea how. There's a bolt here and a bolt here, and it's come loose, but that's all it's done is come loose. So I need to figure this out, and I need to clean this tank. I was able to get the tank out. It was just a matter of loosening up these hoses and tucking them in and tucking them in and tucking them in until you get it up high enough, and then there's a bracket I can take the top off, and then I can get the hoses loose out of the bottom of the tank. Hello and welcome back to Ride Rescue, and this time I am rescuing a gas tank out of a Honda Passport. It's a 1981. It's been in storage for a really long time. I don't even remember the last time it was actually used, but it was long enough that the inside of this tank got all rusty, so it's got to be at least 15 years. It's not horrible, but it's just enough that if that rust breaks loose, which it will, it'll get in the carburetor, plug it up, and then it's going to stop running. So there's several different ways I want to do this. I'm going to start with plugging off these two holes. These holes you can plug off piece of hose, fuel line, and stick something in it, or I just happen to have a couple little rubber caps that snug fit on there pretty good. So those will work for me. So there's different chemicals that I want to use, that I want to experiment with. I've had very good luck with evaporust. How it works in this tank, I don't know. I haven't done it that way. I have soaked parts in it, where if I've got some small parts that I want to soak and get the rust off, that works really good, and then you brush it off. I can't really get inside of here to brush it. One of the things the instruction says is after using it, especially for a gas tank, you need to rinse it out and then put fuel in it right away so that it doesn't flash rust. Well, I'm not planning on putting fuel in this right away. I've got a lot to do on this motorcycle, so once I get this all cleaned out, I want some kind of coating in there, but I don't want to really coat it and risk messing up the baffle system, and I just don't understand what's inside here. So what I'm going to use after cleaning and rust removal, then I'm going to use this rust blast. This also removes rust, but it leaves a zinc coating on the inside. And that zinc coating will last a long time. So that'll give me plenty enough time to get the bike all back together, get everything, all the lines and hoses replaced, and then I can put fuel in it. All right, it's been about 10 minutes. Let's pour this out. Wow. That's amazing. It's like brown paint. It's thick and it's dark brown. That was clear liquid when I poured it in. Yeah. I used the simple green first, full strength. It's still cleaned up a lot. So skip the simple green. Just go to the KBS clean. All right, at this point I need to rinse it out with water, and then we'll put in the rust blast. Okay, now I just have straight water in here. Pretty amazing. Pretty dirty in there. Well, at this point, I hope this works. This rust blast I've used on frames, I've used on fender wells, and it does a great job to get rid of the rust. It even gets the deep pits out if you leave it long enough. For a gas tank like this, it says to keep it wet, keep it moist inside for about 30 minutes. I'll probably even go longer. I just want to make sure this just really gets deep into any possible pits. I don't feel any pits. It's just surface rust, but I want it to be as clean as possible. So I don't need a whole lot. I'm going to put in about a cup again, like I did on the others. And then I think I'll rinse it out a little bit more. So this claims it is 100% guaranteed to be paint ready when you're finished cleaning. So this is a great paint prep too. And it's highly concentrated, so you can dilute it down to 10:1 and use it for cleaning all types of things. But if you use it full strength for a really greasy frame like I did, just amazing how it cleans up the frame, and then this gets rid of the rust. And oh, by the way, I'm not being paid by KBS to advertise their products. I just want to share what I find that really works good, and these do work great. Well, it looks a lot better after rinsing it twice. I'm going to let this dry for a bit, and then I'm going to pour that in. Alright, I'll let this set long enough. It looks fairly good inside. It's not completely dry, but I think it's dry enough. And again, I'll put in about a cup full. And it's really important for this product to stay wet the whole time. This is going to be great for inside of a tank. I'll be able to just keep moving it around every 5 minutes or so and agitate it, and it'll keep everything coated. And if you do have a spot like I was doing on a frame and it was fairly warm outside, I was using a sprayer, kept misting it and misting it and misting it. If it sets up, the zinc kind of builds up and you get a whitish film on it. You just have to soak it down again. It might take a little bit longer. You got to wait a little bit, keep it damp, and that'll break down that rust deep into the pits. But inside this tank, it's going to be really easy to just keep agitating it and keep moving it around. Oh, I want to put my parts back in. I want to agitate it really good and break it down at the same time. The top of this cap is rusty too, so that'll be a good indicator on what that cap looks like. I'm going to let this sit for a bit, and then I'll just keep agitating it over the next 30-45 minutes. I'll just do it about every 5-10 minutes. Alright, while I'm waiting for that gas tank to settle and all the chemicals go to work, I also want to get some chemicals going on here. I'm going to use the KBS Clean. I use this a lot on frames and inner fender wells under the hood. When I'm restoring a classic car, it is fantastic to get all the oils and greases off. I use it full strength on areas that are really, really greasy and grimy. You have to be careful if you're using it on something like this where you've got any deep decals or a delicate paint, it will strip that paint off. I've had really good luck with it on regular paint, like this red paint will hold up really well. But it's not something you want to just leave on there for a long period of time because it is pretty acidic, pretty strong, but it is fantastic for degreasing. I mix it 1:1 with water. You can go as much as 10:1. for different cleaning. But when you've got an area that's really grimy and really built up, you can spray this on and keep it damp for a while. And you have to be careful on aluminums too. It will oxidize the aluminum, especially if it's a really shiny surface like this. It will oxidize the finish and make it look bad. So we'll want to get it off just as quick as possible. Regular aluminum, like an aluminum head or aluminum casting for the block, it doesn't harm that. In fact, it kind of etches it and brightens it a little bit. But some of these other areas got to be a little more diligent. It cleans pretty quickly on some nice surfaces, but the nice surfaces you don't want to tarnish either. Okay, the rest of these areas I'm going to soak really well and let it soak in, and then we'll come back and rinse it off. Some of these deep areas, you can get a brush in it and agitate it, kind of work things loose. Once you get it fairly clean, you want to rinse it with some water just to stabilize the acids, neutralize it. It's been 40 minutes. I'm going to agitate this a little bit more and then we'll pour it out and see what it looks like. Alright. Well, you can see how clean the tank is just from handling it with these chemicals and wiping it down. If only the inside would look that nice. Wow. The inside of that cap was all rusty. So if the inside of the tank looks like that, that is amazing. But if I'm looking here really close, I'm still seeing a little bit of brown edges. So I think I'm going to leave it. I'm going to agitate it and leave it up for a little bit longer. But yeah, this is pretty exciting. Alright, I'm going to let it sit for about 15 minutes, and then we'll try again. Well, I got a little busy and I left this for an hour and 15 minutes. For heavy rust areas, the instructions actually say to do it for at least an hour. So, this should be a really good test then. It says to make sure to rinse it with plenty of water. You'd never even know it was rusted. That's amazing. I don't see any reason to coat the inside of a tank if the inside looks this clean. And the nice thing about it, as it dries, you can see it just gets kind of a whitish tint to it. That's the zinc that's in it. It will leave a zinc coating that will leave it kind of a rust proofing. Once there's fuel in the tank, that rust isn't coming back. So I don't see any reason to put a coating inside of here. All right, let's dump this out. It's no longer brown. It's kind of a blackish color. Well, this is kind of interesting. So you can see these are the parts that I put in. The silver ones are the ones that were inside the tank. The black ones are what they looked like before they went in the tank. So it's stripped the coating right off of those black parts. Now I'm going to rinse the inside of this tank, and then I've got a little scope. We'll go in and check it out and see what it looks like. It says to rinse it thoroughly. Wow, it's clean. That's pretty exciting. There's a little bit of lip around this tank, so I can't get all the moisture out. So I will just put a towel in here, and I'll be able to sop it up in the corner. That's amazing. I can't wait to get the scope in here. I'll show you. But let's start by just looking at this lip. Look how clean that is. That was all rusty. I wish I would have taken the time to do a little bit more video on the rust, but it was just all brown and flaky. So you can envision that. You can definitely envision now that it's silver. I have a little light on the end of this scope, so hopefully you'll be able to see. It's got a little recording device on here. I'll upload it to my phone. Well, you can see from that little scope, there's a couple of little spots here and there. You can see a little bit of rust still, especially around this seam and where these are soldered into place. But I don't see anything to worry about with that. The main thing was to get rid of everything that would flake off. And there's nothing there now. It is just clean. So I'm not going to have to worry about anything getting up into the carburetor system. So that's great, and as long as this is kept full or is drained, and that's what I do at the cabin with the tractor, I make sure to always drain all the fuel out. So that tank is perfectly clean. Never even thought about this tank. And in fact, I was thinking this was a mixed fuel, and with the mixed fuels it leaves a little bit of an oily residue. But no, after I checked the manual, this isn't pre-mixed. So anyway, really good to find out. I can see right through these two tubes. Before, I couldn't see through them. Just a little bit of light would show through. They are clean as a whistle now. Well, that is really exciting that this cleaned up so nicely, and I didn't have to put any sealant on the inside of it. One of the things I worry about with this sealants is if it closes up those holes a little bit for the flow of the fuel. But luckily I don't need to worry about it. It is really clean in there. For now, let's get back to work. Let's put this tank back in and we'll get some fuel in it and try it out. I want to see if I can get this thing to start. Alright, well that's it for this video. I hope you found this as interesting as I did. Hopefully you learned something too when it comes to how to save a tank. And if you did have some really gnarly rust still left behind, or some areas that were questionable about how thick the metal is still left, it pays to go ahead and get the coating, the KBS tank coating, and just coat the inside. But as for this tank, I don't see any reason to coat it. So I'm really excited. All right, well that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Goodbye for now.